Purple Nation time, though, here on WMAL. Lanny Davis, former Clinton White House Counsel, author of the Purple Nation column in The Hill. So, Lanny, when we last left you, when we last talked to you, you were perturbed with us because we had some questions about Anthony Weiner, and you were disgusted that we even wanted to talk about it. But I'm sorry. Obviously, some things have changed since last time we talked. If you were counseling Anthony Weiner, would you tell him that it's time to go? You got to resign?
I don't ever remember being disturbed with anyone.
Oh, no, wait, Lanny. We have to hold your feet to the fire on this.
Look, I was fooled by his explanation, just as everybody else was, and it's too bad that he wasn't able to summon the fortitude to tell the truth and get the whole story out quickly. I think that's the hole that he dug himself into, and it's not unusual for people caught in a sex scandal to be untruthful, but I think now that he is where he is, he's got a lot of work to do at home and with himself, and we ought to leave him alone.
Really? So you don't think he should resign? You don't want to put that out there? It's not your...
Well, when somebody's on ICU, I don't tell them to do anything other than stop the bleeding, and it's not up to me to tell him to resign. I think the politics of this will speak to him some other day. Right now, he's got a lot of personal work and a lot of work, especially with his wife. I know whom very well, and there's a lot of pain going on there. So I don't like to comment on someone who's lying in the gutter bleeding that he ought to do anything about politics. He ought to do a lot about himself. That's his main focus.
All right, but you're a part of the Democratic Party. You know, Nancy Pelosi said she was going to drain the swamp. I mean, I can't believe that Anthony Weiner sticking around is actually going to be beneficial to the Democrats.
Well, both parties have people who have sexual weaknesses, compulsions, problems. David Vitter is a United States Senator. I didn't condemn Vitter other than he needed a lot of personal work, and let him decide whether to resign and go back to the people of Louisiana. I don't understand Democrats jumping on Weiner when the guy's suffering the way he is. At least give him some time to make up his own mind. And in this kind of situation, people who start to talk politics, when someone's going through this kind of human agony, whether it's Vitter or whether it's Charlie Rangel or whether it's anybody else, it just seems to me a little bit unseemly. Let's let this guy, he's suffering, he's humiliated, he's embarrassed, and he's got a lot of work to do with his wife. I think that we ought to just respect that and not be too exploitative.
I think a lot of people are just a little less sympathetic about incredibly self-imposed human agony that was only revealed under duress because he had to come out and tell the truth.
Look, I'm speaking of one individual. Right. I feel sorry for the guy. I feel even more sorry for his wife. But I just want to be sure that we're using the same double standard, and we know it's a double standard. When I hear Republicans calling on him to resign, where was Eric Cantor calling on David Vitter to resign? Would you find me that quote, please? So
well, it's a matter. That's a Senate matter, though, isn't it? Lanny, isn't that a Senate matter? I mean, if you look at what the House of Representatives have done.
What senator? Tell me what senator in the Republican Party called on Vitter to resign?
I agree with you, Lanny. They didn't. I don't remember them doing that.
And Democrats are just as hypocritical now that they're calling on Weiner to resign. This is hypocrisy in Washington. When someone's going through this level of pain and humiliation, I'm not defending the guy. I mean, you were right. I did try to slough it off because I believed him that it was a hacking, and he was lying.
This is
not the first person to lie about this subject, and not the last.
Yeah, this is a little bit different than just a sex scandal because of the fact that he just went out there and said, "Hey, my Twitter account was hacked into. I'm going to hire a private investigator," and then held a press conference, and then did all these one-on-ones that he called with Fox and CNN, and just lied right to their faces about it. I mean, that's why it's a little bit different than just a sex scandal.
Crisis management, and the mantra of getting out of a crisis is tell it all, tell it early, tell it yourself, meaning the truth.
That's right.
Anthony Weiner violated every rule, and he is suffering for it. We don't have to look for a man to suffer. He's suffering. Now let him try to work things out with himself and his wife, and I think the whole political arena and the pundit class, you and me and everyone, ought to leave him alone, and he's gone through what he's gone through. I'm not defending him, and I'm not exactly happy with him, but I also feel sorry for him.
Let me ask you about your column today, Purple Nation, about the Edwards prosecution. Now, you're saying, and we've heard this from another legal expert as well, that it's not exactly the strongest legal case, and this may be more of an emotional, let's slap John Edwards because he kind of deserves it sort of thing going on here. What do you make of the facts of the case?
Well, I was really exactly where you stated until I read the indictment and listened to someone named Lanny Brewer, who is the Assistant Attorney General for the Criminal Division.
Right.
A man that I worked with in the White House, one of the brightest and highest integrity people I've ever met, who approved this indictment. The nonsense that it was a partisan indictment by a Republican Eastern District of North Carolina U.S. attorney is the nonsense that Democrats and the attorneys for Edwards do a disservice to the Justice Department, Eric Holder and Lanny Brewer, who read the evidence. You read the evidence in the indictment, and you have John Edwards telling an aide, we can't put a public statement out that we paid this money to this woman because it might be illegal. And that shows that he knew something was wrong. And the definition of campaign contribution, it seems to me to be a stretch here, but the definition says anything of value that is given to influence a campaign. John Edwards didn't want to let that out, and there's a quote in the indictment where he says, we don't want to say this because it might be illegal or something that will create legal problems. So we had some knowledge that this was a possible illegality, and the indictment is an indictment. It's up to a jury to decide innocence or guilt, but it's not a case about nothing, and I have a lot of respect for Lanny Brewer. He's a Democrat. He signed off on this indictment, and we ought to let the process. He's presumed innocent. John Edwards, as far as I'm concerned, is still innocent until proven guilty, but I don't exactly understand the people piling on the Justice Department.
All right.
When this is a very thoughtful case.
Sounds like you're defending Anthony Weiner and John Edwards this morning. I didn't think there was anybody that could ever do that.
Well, this time I'm defending the Justice Department for bringing the case against Edwards.
I got you.
We ought to let the process play out.
All right, Lanny. Always good to talk to you. We'll do it again next week.
Thanks, guys.
Lanny Davis here on WMAL 644. Check traffic and weather coming up in